So I need you, the internet's help here. Now, this watch was a Christmas gift from my dear wife. It is a Seiko Baby Alpinist, and this is actually not the first watch that I got from my dear wife for Christmas, because the first one arrived very similarly to this one with scratches on the bezel. Now, it was purchased new from a retailer online, a very well-known retailer who I will not name, though their customer service, I feel like, has been very, very good. And I think this is just an honest mistake that technically happens to me a lot. Now, here I am removing the bracelet for what the retailer allowed me to attempt. When I first received the watch, it was scratched, and I reached out to the retailer. It was purchased for Black Friday, and then it wasn't opened until Christmas. So it was well outside of the return window. The retailer said, "This is not what we would have hoped that you would have received. Please send it back, and we will send you a new watch." And then when the new watch arrived, it was also scratched. And so I asked the retailer, because this was my very first Seiko, I said, "Is this how Seikos just are? Do they come sort of, not like a Rolex, not like pristine?" And they said, "No, Seikos do not arrive like that." They identified it, and they said all of the Baby Alpinists that they had in stock at the time had very similar markings on their bezels. These are highly polished bezels, and they were shipped with deficient padding, it seems, from the manufacturer. And so they told me I had a couple of options. One option was they would give me a full refund. Another option was they would allow me to exchange for a pristine example, though they could not say when exactly they would have that pristine example in stock. And then they said the other option was, which is what we're attempting here, is they said the markings on the bezel should be easy to remove with Cape Cod polishing cloths. And I said, "But if it doesn't, can I still do the exchange?" And they said, if the Cape Cod polishing cloth does not clean the bezel to your liking, you can still pursue an exchange. And they also gave me a small gift card for the trouble, which I appreciate. So this video is me attempting with Cape Cod polishing cloths to remove these very, very fine scratches from the mirrored bezel. Now, I've used Cape Cod polishing cloths before for another project, which you will see in a video posted soon. And they worked okay, though that watch had a lot more scratches, and they were very deep, and so it was just sort of lipstick on a pig. I think truly, if Cape Cod polishing cloths would be perfect for anything, it would be this exact type of damage, which is very fine markings, not very deep, and in a high polished mirror surface, because they do have the tendency to over polish, and you don't want to use them on anything brushed, which the lugs on this watch are brushed. Now, I'm certain that some people will mention in the comments that I should have taped off the crystal. The crystal is sapphire, which is inert, and the anti-reflective coating is on the inside of the crystal. So I looked it up thoroughly. The Cape Cod cloths should not and did not damage this crystal, though your mileage may vary, so I don't recommend you do it. But I can confirm there was no damage done to the crystal. I should have taped off the brushed lugs, though I was just doing it myself, and I was doing it very carefully, and so I did not get any of the solvent or whatever oil it is that these, the proprietary secret ingredient that are in these cloths. I didn't get it on the lugs. Now, you can see after the first attempt, it comes out really a lot better, surprisingly better, or maybe not surprisingly, because they're polishing cloths and they're supposed to polish the metal. So here I am, I'm buffing it out. They say to buff out the material with a clean cloth they provide with you cloth. So I had multiple, because I did a few passes. So each time I used a different clean cloth, because when you rub it, you're rubbing metal off of the bezel. And so the cloths get gray from the metal, and I didn't want that to cause more scratching. So you can see this is night and day better. And unfortunately for the internet here, because I'm asking your advice, my macro lens is only a 2x, so I couldn't really get in there. But after the first attempt, there are still scratches there. There are still scratches. It's the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock, and there's a little bit at the 9 o'clock. And so, unfortunately, this turned into a little bit of a Lady Macbeth type situation where I would use the cloth, buff it out. It would look good for a while, and then I would spot a scratch that, from what I understand, was there. I don't think I'm introducing new scratches with these are brand new microfiber cloths that I'm using. And so it just got to a point where I would attempt once, it would get a little bit better, and then I would buff it out, and it sort of wouldn't quite be what you would expect. Now, I've posted this on Reddit, I've posted this on TikTok, and the overwhelming response has been, most of the time, they are saying that I was sold a used watch, which I do not believe is the case. And then the other overwhelming sentiment is, yes, the watch is going to scratch, but they should be your scratches. Now, I personally have some obsessive compulsive tendencies. I think I've gotten a lot better, but I've certainly not perfect in that regards. And so when I see, I buy something new and I expect it to be new, and it's got some damage, that's something that I have a lot of difficulty getting over. Now, in the past, I've had difficulty getting over when I then damage it myself. So like my watches that I have, if I've scratched them, there were times where I would I bought the Cape Cod cloth and I'm going to polish it out. And then I start to think through that and think, okay, well, I can't polish it every day because by the end of the week, you won't have a watch anymore. You'll have polished it to nothing. So, I feel like I've gotten better in that regard, but it still irks me when I buy something or receive something new and it's not quite perfect. And so this is attempt 2 or 3 here. I'm buffing it out. And then you'll get to see sort of how it turns out. And again, I think it's still much, much better. But for a new watch, purchase new, and I know it's going to get scratched, I'm still leaning towards requesting the exchange. So I pose the question to you. Please tell me in the comments, is this good enough? Would you keep this watch? Or, all things considered, the retailer has offered you the exchange. Are you taking the exchange? Noting that this is now a full month after Christmas and I have not yet been able to wear my Christmas watch. So I pose that in the comments. Please let me know what you're thinking, and follow along. I'll also shout this out now at the end. I should have said it at the front. If you enjoy content like this is a complete ripoff of Wristwatch Revival. If you enjoy this, you will like his channel more. This was my first time attempting macro photography and filming videos like this. And so I hope to get better at it. And I hope to continue to make content like this. But I don't want to come off as I'm stealing Wristwatch Revival's premise and content ideas. He does it better. You should follow him instead. But if you would like to follow me as well, please do. Again, let me know in the comments. Am I overreacting? Would you still pursue the exchange, or would you just wear this watch knowing that by the end of day 2, it will look like it did when it first came out of the package, which unfortunately for me was scratched? So when it's all said and done, after about 3 attempts and about 40 minutes of back and forth with the polishing and the buffing out of the polishing liquid, again, it looks much, much better. There's still faint scratching at 6. There's sort of a longer horizontal mark, and then right where the bezel meets the crystal, there's sort of a little indent there that I could not quite polish out, and I didn't want to try and polish out because it would have meant, a discernible amount of material removed. as I turn the watch, you're going to see some markings on the crystal. That's just lint from the microfiber cloth. So I just sort of wipe those away. You'll see them around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on the watch. Yeah, you'll see them there. And again, that's just lint. There's still a little bit of marking at 9 o'clock. It is difficult to tell here. I was having trouble focusing on it with the macro lens, though it is much more noticeable with your eye or a loop when you're looking at the watch. And then also at 12 o'clock, there was still some scratching that I could have potentially done a fifth attempt with the Cape Cod cloth. But at that point, I felt like, again, Lady Macbeth, and maybe a little bit too much metal now at this point, I think was being removed. I didn't want it to be like a polished watch, like a used watch. This is a new watch. So am I overreacting? Would you keep the watch at this point? I'm open to your opinions here. So let me know in the comments. And yeah, hopefully I'll have a Christmas watch sooner or later. Or I already have one. We'll see what the comments say.